3 weeks later, many months later.
Hola, hola, hola. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the Real Precious Network. I'm glad you guys are here. I think we're going to have a good show tonight. We have two awesome videos that we're going to go over. Pretty much one is about rehoming, and then the other is about the system failing a little girl, 15 years old. Shouldn't say little girl. She's a teenager. She was a teenager, but we'll get into that. In the state of Maryland, and how there are some practices over in the state of Maryland that need to be changed just because of what happened to this young lady. But we'll definitely get into that. Definitely hit that like button as you come in, subscribe to the channel. Y'all know, like, hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. I go live on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern and Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern as well. Tuesday nights, we have the Adoptee Foster show, in which we talk about and advocate for adoptees as well as children who are in the foster care system. And we say the uncomfortable things out loud here. There are those who have watched, those who are watching, and those who will watch will or may not experience speaking to an adoptee, may not experience hearing an adoptee story. But here we say those uncomfortable things out loud because a lot of adoptees don't have the language to actually put to what they are feeling. And child, we deep in the game, okay? We deep in the game. So we will say those things for you, advocate for you. You are welcome to join the show. I usually do drop the link after I play the first video. So definitely tune in. And, you know, if you just want to be a spectator, that's fine. I love how our chat engages. So definitely engage in the chat as well. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. And on Wednesday nights, I have a men's forum where we talk about relationships, being better as people. We don't like to point the finger. We just like to point out the truths of the situation and see how those situations can be handled just a little bit differently so we can have different outcomes in our lives. So definitely tomorrow we're going to be talking about the Ashley Janae Johnson story, the woman who went to Tanzania with her boyfriend, who turned into her fiance, who then turns into a suspect of her death. So definitely tune in tomorrow. We'll go over that. But tonight we are going to go over these two videos that I have planned. And yeah, Mr. Leon, how are you doing this evening, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You know, it's been a busy day, but I'm here. We're here. It's been a busy day.
Nice and warm.
Yes, the weather changed. We got some good few days coming up. Sunday, you know, it's supposed to go back to a little bit chilly, some rain. But we have to enjoy this good weather while we have it. 80s today, yesterday. Monday was a little cloudy, so we had a little bit of a breeze, but it still was warm weather. And today the sun was out, so it felt a little hotter. But I didn't melt. I didn't melt today. I'm good. Chocolate didn't melt today. All right. Before we get into these videos, I definitely want to shout out our co-host, which is our viewers. Thank you so much for being here. Worldwide Collaborations. I see you in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. We have Chelsea. Hit that like button. She's telling you to hit the like button. If you see the ranch, you know, that means they got some pull over here. So do.
Oh, Chelsea got the wrench.
Yeah, Chelsea got a wrench. Okay, so she's in charge in this chat. So definitely hit that like button. Subscribe if you are new. Okay, salute to you as well. We have Leon in the chat showing some love. Am I tripping? There's 2 lives for the same show, child. I thought I was tripping too. I went over to the YouTube and I was like, wait, why?
Oh, it's a vertical stream too.
Yes, so there is a vertical stream. One of the fellas on the men's forum showed me how to format the show so that it is in vertical as well as horizontal. Supposedly the vertical gets you more views because people are mostly on their phones when they are tapping into you know, these social media platforms, with YouTube being one of them. So that's why there are 2. It confused me as well. I was like, well, which one do I share to the people? But both of them will land you right here. So I appreciate you for being here. Darnell in the chat. Hello, people. Hello to you as well. Thank you so much for being here. All right. So we're going to go over this first video. And in this first video, we're talking about rehoming. Rehoming is a informal and often unregulated practice where adoptive parents transfer custody of a child to an individual or a family without really going through the legalities of it all, or the child welfare system. So instead of working with agencies, courts, or social services, these transfers happen through online forums. They happen through social media groups, word of mouth. Hey, do you want a baby? I got one. What can we work out? Pretty much.
That's wild.
That's how rehoming happens. And mind you, adoption is a legal process. And so if you're being rehomed after that legal process and there is no legal adoption or child welfare system to rehome you, then you're pretty much making this adoptee back into a foster child and not really knowing what their future is going to hold. You don't have any background checks on these people or anything. So we're going to talk about a video, the Adopted Connor. I love his content. He makes content on adoption and foster care and just showing you the sides of it that no one really speaks about. People like us, we speak about it, but you don't really see this content above all the ratchet, the drama, all of that stuff. I'm only tapped in because I am an adoptee and because, you know, I tap into a lot of the adoptee creators' content. And so I came across this video and we're going to get into it.
Doesn't know it yet, but I have.
Hold on now. StreamYard.
Doesn't know it yet, but I had to rehome her because I just don't have time for a kid and a dog.
So funny, but like for a second, can we actually talk about the fact that rehoming happens all the time in adoption the second adopted people become inconvenient to their adopters? Here's a post from just 6 months ago. What advice can you give to start the rehoming process for my adopted daughter? Hello everyone, what would be some advice that you would give me as we start the process for dissolution? It's so painful, yet we want to walk through this the best we are able to. I know every situation is so different. We adopted our daughter internationally at
internationally at that, okay?
1.5, and she is now 5.5, so 4 years with us. It has been so hard with disorganized attachment, screaming, and yelling constantly for 4 years, therapy after therapy, medication, depression, and anxiety taking over me. I have been stuck in blocked care, something I'll get to later in this video, most of these years, while my husband has a bit more of a bond, though it's still up and down. However, we are in agreement that this is the best option for her. We have 2 bio daughters, aged 2 and 7. We've been advised and believe that a home with no other children is where she will most most likely be able to heal and feel safe. I trust the responses to be grace-filled, but just wanted to ask if there was anything you wish you had known in our shoes at this point. Thank you all. Hugs to each of you.
Before we go on, let's talk about this entry from the person who wants to rehome their 5-year-old, right? So we're going to take this down. So they go to a blog and they are
Reddit.
speaking about the experience of adopting a child internationally. They adopted her when she was 1.5 years old. And they also have 2 biological children. He talked about the blockage, how they're her husband seems to bond with the child. However, for her, as a mother, as someone who has biological children and has also adopted, there is a blockage there, and that's normal. That's actually normal, because you have a child whose bond was broken with their biological family, and it is hard for the child to connect, to bond, to relate, to blend in, to adjust. That is very normal for an adoptee, no matter what age you adopt them, even if you adopt them at birth. And she's pretty much saying, there's been therapy, there's been a lot of crying, there's been anxiety, there's been all these things happening with this internationally adopted child. And she wants the comments to be grace-filled, and she wants people to give their opinions. Leon, how do you feel about this entry of a person saying, hey, I adopted them at 1.5, and I pretty much what she's saying is, I can't take it no more. I can't do it anymore. I quit. I throw in the towel. How do you feel about that, being an adoptee and listening to adopted parents who now want to rehome a child that they have adopted?
Well, how does she think the baby feels? Like, for one, it's an international child, and they have, the baby is probably just trying to figure out what's going on, trying to go through those stages, that we talked about, where you're trying to get comfort, trying to get security, you're trying to figure out the environment, and somehow the baby is connecting more with the father than the mother. So the mother is, I can see it from her standpoint too, right? Like, so she's probably, either the husband or she is taking the child to whatever therapy sessions that they can get. And, maybe she feels like she's not getting anywhere. She doesn't seem like it's getting any better, from what she's writing. I mean, we talk about this a lot now recently, where this is a big undertaking. Like, this is not, this ain't order a pizza and, like,
Order
this ain't
pepperoni, take it back.
right. Give me the garbage can pizza instead of all meat pizza. Like, when you look at how people deal with this, and like, she's going online posting basically like she don't want the kid anymore, like, and how to start the rehoming process, like, instead of trying to figure it out. I mean,
because she got 2 kids, she got to figure it out with them. Are you going to rehome them too, or are you going to go to a blog and say, my 2-year-old is just it's terrible twos, I just can't take it?
Yeah, like, what are we even talking about here? Like, she made the commitment, and like you said, she already has 2 kids I felt like it might have been somewhat easier because she had 2 kids, and, like, maybe the older kid would have, kinda taken more of a older sibling role and tried to help. Maybe she just feels overwhelmed. Maybe that's where what she really is trying to say, instead of saying, like, I don't know what to do. It's more like she might be feeling overwhelmed because she might have to be doing everything, right? Like the husband might be working. I mean, he might not have the time that she is looking for. And, that's normal too. Like if somebody's working, somebody else is going to have to actually take up the rear, right?
Mhm.
So, um, and maybe she just it's a way for her to vent, but maybe she doesn't really feel that way. But putting it online, it just makes it seem like you're just giving up and you're not even willing to try.
Right. And instead of saying, instead of reaching out to adopted parents who have adopted internationally, she is pretty much saying, and what got me to, before I get to that point, but what got me was, I think that the child would be better in a home with no other kids, and it's like, again, you have two children. Are you going to rehome one of them when it gets difficult? But going back to my other point, instead of saying, is there an adoptive parent who has adopted internationally? I need your help. I need to speak to someone to see how you guys are getting through this. How are you handling it? How is your child reacting to the placement, or the different environment? When you adopt a child internationally and bring them here, for one, they already stick out. They are already different off the rip. Like off the rip. They're already different. And so, that alone is enough for a child to not want to connect because they're not seeing anyone that looks like them.
Right.
And children pick up on that very young. I had a brother who was adopted by a white family. I had another brother who was adopted by a Spanish family. And he was like, I just knew like something was different, like they're speaking Spanish. That I was the darkest one. And he's not, I feel like my brother is probably my complexion, maybe a little lighter than me. Um,
Hmm.
and children feel different on the inside, but then when you bring it to the outside appearances, that is just another reminder that they had that break in the bond with their biological family. So, it bothered me that you're not asking for help. You're asking, you're pretty much saying that you want to quit. And the adoptee feels like people are quitting on them, especially their biological family, even if that is not the case. Because I know when I was adopted, it was just like I felt as though that my mom chose drugs over her children, and you have all of these thoughts in your head of what you think is the case, because we don't really, the truth is not really shared with us either.
Hmm.
You have all these thoughts in your head about what happened, what didn't happen, what could have happened, what should have happened. But as a child at this tender age that she is, she's gone through so many developmental changes, and rehoming the child is not in the best interest of the child. However, if this mother is not going to love the child, then do you think it is in the best interest of the child to be placed in a home where they will receive the love, the care, the nurture that they deserve?
Yeah, I mean, I think she's just going through an uphill struggle right now.
Yeah, it's almost like postpartum depression, and she didn't birth the child. Like that. That's
Yeah.
what it sounds like, because women who biologically have children get overwhelmed at just the thought of everything that goes into taking care of a child.
Mm-hmm. And she could be, um, maybe just a way to, I don't know if her husband or whoever she's with would see that, but like maybe to get them to understand, you know, to take some of the load off of her, Um, but I mean, she knew what, like, she knew what this was going to be. Like, this was not going to be, uh, this wasn't going to be no walk in the park. I mean, some adoptions are, but most of them aren't. Um, some of the kids, they just adjust, and they gravitate to what's going on, and eventually they kind of adjust, like a fit. I'm not saying a person adjusts all the way, but like at least like like at least 80%, right? Because there's that 20% that you're like, well, why am I here? Like,
They
what
run
did
away.
I? Yeah, like what did I do? And so it's when you look at, like, I would really like to see how she parents her biological kids.
Well, I mean, she don't have to worry about them looking different and feeling different, and
That's true.
she doesn't have to worry about those internal feelings that she can't necessarily reach, that she can't
Hmm.
necessarily fulfill. And that is something I don't believe that parents are really prepped or trained, or it's not spoken about. Adoption, it's presented as, you can't have children. Well, this is the goal.
Here's the miracle.
Yes, this is the goal. You're trying, and you've been trying. Well, there are children that need to be adopted, and you know the uncomfortable conversations are not the conversations that are being had with parents who are preparing for this process, nor is the proper information being given to them. I mean, it's already an oddity when children get adopted, but when children get adopted by, internationally, that should take even extra training, even extra, knowledge should be given, and background information,
Hmm.
and just ways to help your child cope in the situation that they're in, that they didn't ask for. And now, you know like you said, you signed up for this process, you signed up for this journey, and to cut the journey short because you're overwhelmed by the emotional responses that this child is naturally going through as an adoptee, just doesn't seem too fair to the adoptee, nor is it fair to you as the adopted parent, because at the end of the day, you would think that parent or adults, not just parents, but adults, think their decisions through. They plan and prepare for life decisions such as having children. I don't think that parents think about this, because when you have your own biological children, it just clicks. You just go into motion. You just handle the emotions. You learn to nurture your child. You learn, because they're that emotional biological bond
Hmm.
doesn't have to be explained. It just is, right? It just is. The biological bond is just there. And of course, you have parents who go through the postpartum, and there are resources for that as well, for you to get through it. I just don't think that the resources that are available, such as adoption counselors, because there is a such thing as counselors who specialize in just adoption. I was talking about last live how I need to make an appointment with my therapist. Okay, Miss Thompson, I need to make an appointment. But then I thought, like, She's a great therapist. Love her down. I'm like, well, I wonder if I should speak to an adoption therapist, which I've never done in my life. I've never gone to a therapist who specializes in adoption. And I'm not saying that I don't want to go to Miss Thompson because she would not, you know, give me, I don't want to say advice, but that she wouldn't pretty much analyze and ask me questions and probe me to see why I am in, you know, in this stuck place that I'm in. But I think going to a counselor who specializes in adoption would be able to empathize as well as sympathize with me. And we all know that there are two different definitions to empathize and sympathize. Someone that empathizes with you is someone who's actually gone through the experience and can actually tell you what their professional training has given them as well as their personal training.
Mm-hmm.
Thompson would only be able to give me what her professional training tells her to, you know, give. And while that's a good thing, we have to realize that I don't want to say that we're different, but we're different, right? We come from, our origin story is very different from someone who does not come from adoption. And so I had that thought, like, you know, maybe I should seek out an adoption counselor. You know what I mean? Miss Thompson will always be there. I got a number, I got the doctor, you know, I got the appointment card. But speaking to someone who has gone through it can offer just even more insight on, you know, calming or regulating emotions or being able to collect your thoughts in a different manner. So even in this situation, you know, another thing that I want to point out in this situation, then we're going to get back to Connor. Okay. You don't see the dad on here. You know, it's not me and my husband would like to know, or my husband and I have been going through this situation. She makes it very clear that the child connects with the husband a lot better than she connects with the mother. And I find that interesting. You know, I find that very interesting just because, you know, mothers are looked at as the natural nurturers. And being as though this child is connecting with your husband, why wouldn't you use that to your advantage? You know, it takes two parents, and adopted children warming up to adopted parents is a very difficult and delicate situation. And it's not something that you can force. No adoptive parent can force that adoptee to love them. And that's just the reality.
Yeah, because I can't really recall when the point where I actually was like accepting all of this, when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because you're going to all these places and they're just like, oh, come on, get dressed, we're gonna get dressed. And but I do remember going to, like we talked about, the counselors who, the way you put it, what are now emojis.
Yeah.
They would ask you,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they would ask you, how do you feel today? Are you happy? Do you feel sad? Do you feel lonely? Um, do you feel like going outside to play? And I never felt like going outside to play
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. And they were trying to figure out why, and they also thought I couldn't talk also. So those were two big pieces of the puzzle that had to get solved.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like you said, she should use that to her advantage. If the kid is warming up to the father, for whatever reason, you know, use that to get closer to the kid. I don't know why. Like you said, the mothers are usually the ones who are able to have that nurturing spirit, and it shows, you know. And do you think she's making this decision on her own to write this and not tell her significant other?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I thought you were getting at.
um, because
uh,
it mother, you know how mothers be like, my child, this is my child, my child, my child. And no, it's not just your child,
hmm
and not only is it not just your child, this is an international child who was born to people of a different culture, and so it's very selfish of her to, and everyone is entitled to their feelings. Everyone is entitled to expressing their feelings how they see fit.
hmm
I don't think that the internet is the most, what I mean? You go to the
mm,
internet, what's a good recipe for a chicken and spinach and it, like, you know what I mean?
right.
I will come to the internet for something like that. Like, give me a good recipe.
Exactly.
Give me some design ideas for a house, or things like that. But I wouldn't come to the internet to ask about something as heavy as this, just because you don't know the emotional and mental state of a lot of people on the internet. And if truth be told, it's probably not always, in the best in the best conditions. A lot of people have their own opinions, they have their own mindsets. You have a lot of people that may come, that may make the situation worse, make her depressed, make her tell her this is the worst decision that she's made in her life. You may have other people who are very encouraging, who may change her mind about rehoming, or rehoming this child. But at the end of the day, you're going to get so many ends of the spectrum that is not going to be a good pool to pull from when it comes to a life decision like this. It's just not.
Yeah, and you don't never know, like, you know, you never know how people interpret what you put online too, because
Right.
you're typing it, right? Because you're not actually on video talking about it. It's people get a different perception of when you're actually typing words and when you're actually on video. I don't, people read into things more,
Yeah.
than what it is sometimes, or not enough. Um, and yeah, she's like trying to take the helm of something that probably she didn't even discuss with her spouse. Just because she's having frustrations. Um, and it's really about um, trying to build that connection and try to see what he's doing different than what she's not doing.
Yeah.
You know,
Two is better than one.
exactly.
Two is better than one. And, men think differently than women. That's just the truth. And where she may be anxious and very emotional about this, and because adoption, foster care, all of it is very emotional. You can't take the emotion out. You can't separate it.
hmm
However, men have boxes. Y'all have boxes up there. Okay. Whereas us, it's just spaghetti. Like we can't separate the noodles from the sauce. And so it would be a great idea to sit down with this person, because at the end of the day, you both had to make the decision to adopt the child.
hmm
I think that, of course, the decision is heavier on a woman's side, especially a woman who can't have children. But this woman obviously can have children. She had two biological children. But, you know, uh, sometimes women just want what they want, right? And they're not thinking about long term. And that's where a man comes in. Men think about long term. Women are very cyclical. Just every month, auntie shows up. She comes, like that. That's just our nature as women. And
hmm
so, I feel like she's going through a cyclical period right now. Adopted her at 1.5. You're talking about the emotional pulls that are coming from the child. And in this fifth year, it's like, okay, well, let's let's rehome. What do you guys think? How do you feel about this? Yet again, she has two biological children. And as her husband, I probably would sit back and observe and be like, did I make the right decision in picking this woman? No, I'm just kidding. But you know, he may sit back and say, you know, if she's having a hard time with this child, I wonder how life is going to be with our biological children. Is she going to be overwhelmed with their emotion? Because just because children are biologically yours doesn't mean that they're not going to go through emotional turmoil with you or at school or just within themselves, trying to find out their identity. And so, you know, I wonder if he is taking into account the way that she is reacting to this, or the response that she is having towards this child having the emotions that, and at 5, it's like the child is 5. She's not 15. And so, you know, you do go through those terrible twos on top of being adopted. You do go through the, you know, emotional blend of the family on top of being adopted, internationally at that. And so it just seems as though the mother didn't have a long-term view of what this would be like. And again, instead of coming to the internet about rehoming a child, why are you not asking for as much help to support not only the child, but yourself? Because I always say, you know, the adoptees are the center of adoption, and it should be about the adoptees. However, it can't be about us if you're not healthy. Like, if you're not a healthy emotional being, it's always going to be about you. It's never about us. I mean, we're the short end of the stick because you're not emotionally healthy.
And they always, you know, it's like, you remember watching those reunions like on TV back in the day, like on Ricky Lake, Donahue, and they make it seem so glamorous, like you're winning a lottery. But like you said, they don't tell the story of what they're going to go through when they get home. Like, they don't tell them it can be some long nights, you know, and not, you know, maybe not every child does that, but maybe it's like 50-50. You might go through some times that you like, well, I didn't even go through this with my biological kids. Like, why I got to put up with this? You know, they might have those thoughts, right? So, yeah, I mean, maybe she doesn't know she can get help and really needs to find out, you know, what kind of support that she can get, you know, because I'm sure it's stuff out there for her. She just doesn't know, you know.
And that's where people always say, which I hate the saying, there is no book on parenting, right? There is no, yes, there is. Take your behind down to Barnes and Noble. Okay, there's a whole parenting section in there, a whole parenting section in there. And I think that, you know, biological or adopted parents don't take the time to seek out the knowledge before you are trying to put your child off on somebody else. And not seeking out the knowledge is a symptom of your growth being stunted, right? You feel like you can't, because it's one thing to go to a therapist and things of that nature to get your story out there and to get your feelings and your situation out there for help to be received. However, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, there are things that you can do on your own in your own solitude to help you and to give you the steps to help you through this situation. And one, again, is seeking the knowledge. It takes nothing. You will drive to the grocery store to get your groceries. You will go to the gas station to put gas in your car, right? You will buy clothes to clothe yourself so you're not walking around here naked, but you won't go to a bookstore to educate yourself on the various things in life that you have no knowledge about or that you feel like you are undereducated about. And parenting is one of them. I hate when people say we don't have a book. We don't have, yes, you do. You're just not using your brain and expanding it enough to know that that is an option for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are libraries, there's the internet, there's just so much out there, and it has always been out there, even before the internet age. Bookstores have always been a thing. It's always been a thing. And so to not take that extra step is doing yourself and the child a disjustice, because there are definitely resources out there. And I always say, you know, you want to become a teacher, you go through college. You want to be a doctor, a nurse, you go through the education that it takes to get you to the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
But yet when it comes to parenting, everybody acts like they don't know what to do. It's like, this is not an untouched subject where God didn't give us the resources to be able to thrive in this area of our life. Mm-hmm. It's there. It is there. And sometimes you have to get out of your own way. You know, that's why I believe that adopted parents should go through, you know, a time period of therapy before you even get the chance to adopt someone else's biological child. Because if you're going through your own emotional development, and you're seeing that in your own life, you couldn't get past this, or you couldn't get past that, or you didn't talk about this in your childhood or with your parents, you know, that's going to be a direct reflection on how you raise that child. It's going to be a direct reflection on the bonding that you have with that child. And if you don't expand your mind and stretch yourself in those ways, then you are going to feel inadequate. You're going to feel inadequate. You know, I love when I learn something new, because it's like, oh, I can use this somewhere. I can, you know, and then it makes me feel good, because it's like, oh, I didn't know this. So now it's something that I do know. And so I can use it. You use what you know. But when you don't know something, then you're going to, in essence, you're going to abuse the child some way or another. And in this case, it would be emotional abuse, because you're not extending yourself to be able to help this child in the way that they need to be helped. And that's an extension of you not being able to help yourself in the way that you need to be helped. And so we're going to get back to Connor, but thank you guys so much for joining. Those who have joined, definitely hit that like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell notification. If you're new here, we appreciate you for joining. I have dropped the link, so if you'd like to join the show, definitely do so, but I will continue to play Connor's video, and then we're going to move on to the next video.
This post originally came from a Facebook group where people rehome children to complete strangers on the internet. What could go wrong? So now it's time to talk about blocked care, which is a very interesting parenting phenomenon, which for whatever reason only seems to apply to adoptive and foster families. One adoption website describes blocked care as something that happens when a parent or caregiver experiences extreme or sustained levels of stress. Their nervous system can get overwhelmed. They may subconsciously shut down as a self-protective mechanism. This website argues that many factors can contribute to someone's experience of blocked care, but I would argue really only one of them does, which is unrealistic or unmet expectations in this parenting experience. The reason that blocked care, rehoming, reactive attachment disorder, oppositional defiance disorder, all of these adoption-specific diagnoses even exist is very simple. Adoption agencies really have two choices on how they want to operate, and they've always chosen option number one, which is to lie. Lying makes adoption agencies more money. It increases the demand by convincing people that adopted people are no different than biological children, or basically the replacement for any child a couple loses or can't have due to infertility. Option number two is honesty. Adopted people are different, for better or for worse. We've experienced trauma. We're not always easy to parent. But of course, honesty would kill the demand for and drastically decrease the prices of adoptable children in this country. We're seeing this bear out in the adoption marketplace in real time. There are thousands of adoptable foster youth in the system right now who cost virtually nothing, but millions of Americans are lined up to adopt infants through the private adoption industry because the promise of a blank slate infant is more appealing.
She doesn't.
50 bands?
What'd you say? Yes.
50 bands?
Yes.
What?
Racks on rack. Like a lot of money to adopt a child, okay?
Whoa.
And mind you, international children cost some money. So now this child that you have adopted, that you have paid for, you are now trying to rehome and give to someone pretty much for free, you know? And like he said, adoption agencies, and we went over this, was it last live when we had the woman who talked about how adoption agencies will twist the narrative, twist your words, they'll turn the narrative. We showed
so. Yeah.
one child being taken away from the home, and the
lady was smiling and giggling
and laughing, and just have no empathy for the mother or the child in this situation. He also said, you know, we have to really take in consideration that adoptees are just different. We're starting at a level of loss. We're not starting at, you know, a fair playing ground of a clean slate with our parents. We're starting at loss, and parents just are not told the truth about that. And he says that if the adoption agencies told you the truth, then there would be less people who would adopt. And that's sad, because we should be telling the truth, just morally, right? But there's nothing wrong with telling the truth and providing resources. Why can't you tell the truth and provide the resources that it's going to take to help you as well as your adopted child adjust to this new life situation that you all are in? There's nothing wrong with telling the truth, but also give the resources. It's almost like, it's like, you know, take this child and figure it out, you know? And a lot of people, like this woman in this case, can't figure it out.
Yeah, like the still mind boggled off the 50 bands.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry. I wouldn't do it. It wouldn't be me. We're not gonna have a baby for free. Okay. It wouldn't be me. I'm sorry. Good luck to them children. But I just doing it, especially not doing any research to protect my, you know, investment or get some return on my investment, which is knowledge and resources that's going to help me understand this child. Because we talk about investment, right? You know, houses are investment, land is investment. To some people, there are material things that are investments, but the return on the investment when you adopt a child is that child wanting to be in communication and relationship with you when they are older. That's your return on investment, which means you're not going to get that return until that child turns a certain age and they decide if they want to deal with your ass or not. And I'm just sorry, that's just what it is. Okay, that is your return on investment when you're talking about children, and that's biological or adopted, right? Because it isn't a children are an investment. You're paying for them every day, every second that they breathe, and they require money to be spent, right? And so you have to really exactly, that's all children, as long as they're breathing, you have to make sure that they are financially taken care of. But the return on investment is not going to be oh, this child is just going to love me so much, or this child is always going to be no, the return on investment is going to be the way that you educate yourself and the resources that you use in order for there to be the intimacy. We talked about this as well. Intimacy, intimacy, right? And so if you're not going to see inside of that child, or if you're not going to see that child for who they are outside of being your adopted child, then the return on the investment on that child is probably not going to be a high one, which means if you are not seeing that child for who they are, if you're not recognizing them, if you're not acknowledging them, then they are not going to want to be, they already feel distant from you. They already feel distant from you. So your job is to figure out how you can bridge the gap and become close, become one, become, invested in this child emotionally. 50 bands and can't even emotionally bond with the child. Really? You did all that for what? For what?
What the heck?
Right? You did all that for what? For people to look at you a certain way, for you to have a certain talk around the town about how you took this child from a certain situation and brung them into a better situation. What did you emotionally do for that child? How can that child look at you and trust you emotionally? How can that child rest in your love? Can they rest in your love, or are they always anxious? Are you short with them? Are you frustrated because they can't really make of what is going on in their life while being in a home with you? These are all the things that adoptive parents and foster parents don't really take into consideration. And if they do, they think time will heal all wounds. And in due season, this child will then miraculously realize that what we did for them was, the greatest thing that could have been done for them. And they will turn around and they will love us forever. And that is just not the truth. You have adoptees who run away. You have adoptees who just do not feel a connection or a bond with their adoptive parents. And, the onus of this falls on the parents, because the adoptees have no say in it. The adoptees have no say in it whatsoever. They're placed in a home full of strangers, and they're told that this is what their life is going to be.
I'm telling you, it's literally the Twilight Zone.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to find that music, because we always talk about that. It really is Twilight Zone.
Like if you think about, for example, like you just think about all the times where you were trying to understand what your parents were saying, or like what you were just trying to get them right when you were placed, right? Like so, and like for a long time they couldn't. I assumed they were getting frustrated because I wasn't talking for a while. I assumed that could have been frustrating. I don't know. I was kind of young, so I don't really know. Um, I don't really remember. It's not. I'm not trying to be an a-hole and say I don't remember, but I'm just saying, like, I guess maybe I blocked that out, for whatever reason. But once I did, get to that point, I think the hard part was really over, because they could communicate with me and I could communicate with them, and not with the just shaking my head or,
Right.
It was more, it was more tangible, right? Like, so it was things that I knew that I wanted, or, and also, listen, when you adopt a kid, that's more food, especially if it's a boy, because little boys, they can eat. Like we used to go through so much. I remember this. We used to go through so much groceries. Like my mother was buying like 2 and 3 gallons of milk. Just, yeah.
That's like the Indians. When I see the Indians, I'd be like, what they got so much milk for? What's all this milk for?
Yeah, like it's just those are just little things people don't think about, especially if they adopt a boy, because the boys eat more, because like once you get adapted to that life and you start going outside, you start playing and coming back in like, oh, what we got to eat? Go back outside, play again, eat again. It's uh I think a lot of people don't think about that, and they don't think about, like you said, that those emotional moments that she's going through, like she could just be overwhelmed and like trying to come to the internet for answers, basically. Like, hey, throw me a bone here.
Right. All you uneducated people. I do see a comment here from Chelsea. She says the kids are going to grieve the loss of being away from their biological parents. It doesn't matter if the parents were bad, it's still a loss to a child.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, and yes. Like I said, when children are adopted, they are starting out, and so are the parents. The parents are starting out at a level of loss, right? And grief, I mean, you grieve anything that you lose. It doesn't, they don't, the people don't even have to die. If something or someone is taken away from you, that is a loss. And even grieving, there is grief counseling as well. So, that is definitely one of the first things that an adoption agency can prepare parents for a grief, because that is something that the child will go through and not even realize. They won't even realize that's something that they need help with,
Mhm.
because they're gaining, they're not losing. Right? So they're from a standpoint of I my family is complete. We now have children. Yes, let's go. And it's like, no, you have to stop. Think about it. No, you got to stop and realize the emotional space that the child is in, even if the child is not recognizing it. Because even like you said, you were very young and you were pretty much nonverbal, right? That is a symptom of being taken away, or a symptom of the loss of your biological bond. And
Mhm.
so while you weren't verbal about that and you couldn't grieve through words, that was still a state of grief for you.
Mhm.
It was very much a state of grief for you, and your parents did the right thing. We need to figure out what's going on with Leon. He's not talking, he doesn't want to go outside. What is happening? And instead of going to the internet, they said, let's get our son some help. Let's figure out what is going on with him, so this placement or this environment or our home, our family, let's make him feel safe enough to want to talk to us. Let's make him feel safe enough to allow him the freedom of being able to bond with children who are his age. Because I always say the adoption agencies will definitely tell you, get them involved, get them in a sport, or keep them
Mhm.
busy. That is definitely something that they tell you, but all those things have you on the go. Again, they don't have you being still. They don't have you being intuitive. They don't have you really tapping into the intimacy that you should have with your child. It's get them in a sport, get them in an activity to take their mind off of it. Okay, you can do that, but at the same time, these are children. The children are going to go along with what the parents say.
Mhm.
Going along with what the parents say, you still have to tap in emotionally with your children. That was a big thing when I got adopted. It was, my mom always just say, like, I just feel like you're not connecting with us. And instead of it being a exploration for them, it was almost like I was the bad person for not connecting with them and not having this bond that they so desired, and them not taking in consideration my past before I came to their home. And my past was, I was happy where I was at. And so being adopted really traumatized me, because it was just like, this is a different environment. I had a lot of friends. I loved my school. I loved my neighborhood. It was just such a, not necessarily a culture shock, but it was a shock to my emotional, my nervous system. It really was. It was a shock. These strangers, you know, and in my head, I'm not thinking, okay, I'm in a better place, or I'm in a better environment, or what, you know, physically I probably was. But when I got adopted, emotionally, I was not in a better place. I actually, it was negative 10 points. Okay, negative. All right, I was in a deficit. All right, and it was just it was more so of, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you bonding with us? Instead of figuring out, okay, I wonder why I wonder what is hindering her from being close to us. What can we do so that she feels safe here, so that she feels the same joy? Because it was joy, you know what I mean? I was a child. I was filled with joy of just being in the environment that I was in before I got adopted. And I feel like when I got adopted, that joy was just like gone. It was just the weirdest feeling. And it was almost like I couldn't shake it. And because I was made to feel like the bad person because of it, it made the bond even harder to form. Like, you know what I mean? And like you said, I don't remember when I became okay with everything. I think it was just the routine of going through the motions, and I just became used to the routine. But did the emotional bond grow? It did, but at the same time, it didn't grow. It probably didn't grow to a maturation that they wanted to. It didn't grow to, it didn't, the emotional bond didn't really grow to a level of looking back and saying, you know, you know, this is where you were when you were here, when you first got here, and this is where you are now. I think, again, just the routine, daily, you know, routine of just being in the family just became a norm. It was the new norm for me. But it wasn't something that was tapped into, you know, intuitively. It wasn't something that was a proactive, you know, let's see what we can do. It was just, in due time, things will be better. And
So you never reached that level of happiness again that you were before you got adopted?
I can't really say that I reached that level of happiness. Again, it was literally going through the motions. After a while, it literally was going through the motions. You're in this family now. We take family trips. We'll go here. We'll do this. We have a family reunion every year. You know, it just was a going through the motions type of situations for me. Now, were there happy moments where like, yeah, like it wasn't robotic, but it was. I still felt that emotional bond was not there. Even growing into my teenage years, adult years, the emotional bond it at this point, it's to a point now where it's like I can look back and say we still at square one. We just got old. I just got older. I'm just a woman now. I'm not 9 years old. And so that's why I said that I want to see an adopted therapist, because how do you get out of that cycle of wanting there to be a bond, but all parties are not wanting that same thing?
So I was going to ask you something. Um, how did you feel when you were going to family reunions?
Like that's just what we did. That's just what happened in the family. Now I felt it okay, so okay. Family reunions was a time when family got together and things of that
Hmm.
nature. I remember one time, this is we had just became a family, just got adopted, right? And again, this was just a shock for me. But my parents were very, very strict. It was just like they did not want us out their sight. They didn't want, they were just really strict, really strict. And one family reunion, every family reunion, the family gets in on Friday. We may do a family activity that night. Saturday is
Hmm.
a day full of activities. Sunday we have church. Everybody depart and go back
Hmm.
to their homes, right? And so this family reunion, the family was doing something. I don't know if it was a Friday night or that Saturday. And we just in a hotel room. And I'm like, now mind you, I came from an environment, all right. I was in Jersey City where I was able to stay out till the street lights came on. Okay. We was outside. All right.
Hmm.
There was no harm, no nothing. We literally were kids just having fun back in the day in the
Hmm.
90s where you could do that, right?
Hmm.
So that's the environment that I came from, being amongst others. So we in this hotel room, and I'm like, why are we in here? Like, why can't we go with our family? We in a family now. Like, why can't we go with the family? And my dad just became so frustrated with me and so mad at me. And I'm like, am I saying something wrong? Like, is there is there a reason? I have always been curious. I've always been curious. I'm a curious individual, and I always want to know the why. The why will explain it all. So I'm like in my head, I'm like, is there a reason why we just sitting up in this hotel room? We're not allowed to go with family, and we're not allowed to have fun. Isn't that what we came here for? And my dad, he just got so mad at me, like he just couldn't handle my questions or why I was feeling that way, to the point where he put his hands on me. And I'm like I'm not understanding this. Like, help me understand it as the child, right? And so family reunions just again became one of those things that we just did every year. We
Hmm.
met up with the family, mind you. We don't do this no other. It's not like we had one-offs where it was just like, all right, you were meeting outside of the family reunion, or come down to Virginia or come to Maryland or come. We have family everywhere. I was adopted into a family that was heavy military. Everybody was like everywhere, and so it just became routinely, like it was just a routinely. We were the kids that were, we obeyed our parents. We did what they asked of us, and we went to sleep at night and did it all over the next day. That's pretty much what it was. You do what I tell you to do. You follow the rules. We run a strict program, and for me, that didn't work for me emotionally, because I needed more than just do what I say. I needed, the nurturing. I needed that, but I also needed my parents to acknowledge that my brother and I were very different. We were raised in different foster homes. And so you can't raise me like a boy. You can't raise me like I am him, because we're different. We have different needs. And so you have to address those needs separately. But it was just like we came as a package and we were raised as a package. That's how I feel, like we were raised as a package. And so things that my brother didn't necessarily mind, I may have felt some way towards it, and vice versa. But we were raised as a package. It wasn't like we were seen as two individual children, even though we were. It was very clear that we were two individual children. And we both struggled with things in our adoption, but I feel like those things just weren't addressed. It was just like, especially now at our big age, it's almost like you grown now, figure it out. These things that you want from me, you're probably not going to get it. That's the attitude that I get. And so you know, you got to keep living. You got to keep, going on with life. And so that's just how it was. That's how I saw it to be when we were younger. It was just like, okay, you're in our home now. This is how we run things. And I believe every child needs structure. It was a good thing. It was a good thing. I'm not saying that it wasn't a good thing. It was a good thing that we had structure. It was a good thing that we had discipline. But sometimes it was too much for the emotional burden that we were carrying as adopted children. And I wish that my parents sometimes would take a step back to say, are we being too hard on the kids, or are we requiring things from them that we're not really diving into? And exploring these things a little bit, deeper. Are we going beneath a deeper surface, or are we only handling these things at surface level? And it always, well, I guess now in my adult age, I can see, my parents were also heavy in the church. So it seemed like, because of that, it was, well, God will make things okay. Or, in time, they'll realize X, Y, and Z, which in my adult age is like, God is not always enough. And I always say that, like, God gave us the resources so we could live comfortably and know what to do. And not only have to resort to him in certain situations. So why is that not the case? Even recently, trying to bring up or have a conversation, and the response was, well, the fix for this situation is we just need to pray about it. And it's like, child, I've been praying for for a long time now that, and you just want things to be a little bit different. But if all parties aren't involved in that healing and that transformation of the relationship, or progression of changing how things were, for things to be, a different way, if all parties aren't involved in that, it's hard to get a little bit further in the journey when you're stuck in a certain place.
Yeah. And I'll say, I think I could remember when I was going to family reunions, I didn't like people to touch my face,
You didn't like people to touch your face.
and they would squeeze my cheeks.
When they say, get your hands up.
I wanted to in the worst way,
Get your hands up.
but I'm a little kid. I can't do, I'm
Yes, you
trying
can.
to.
See, that's the thing. That's the thing. We feel like we have no advocacy over ourselves, right? We feel like we can't advocate for ourselves because people are stepping in to advocate for us. And that's one thing that, that's a narrative that needs to change within the adoptee and the foster care community. A child's voice shouldn't be taken from them because you stepped up to provide a home, clothes, love. Like, our voice shouldn't be silenced because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because honestly, if I wasn't in the position that I was in my biological family unit, there would be no adoptive family unit. And so I think that that's a narrative that needs to change. If you don't like people touching your face, you should be able to say, I don't want you to touch my face. And it shouldn't be looked at as, oh, you're being disrespectful, or you're, no, that is how you feel as an individual human being.
Yeah. And so, I think my mother could tell. I think the second time we went to a reunion, and she was just saying, no, he don't want you touching his face. Don't do that. And so, even going to family reunions, I would be looking around like, don't none of these people look nothing like me.
And you touching my face. So
But no, I was just curious about what your how you felt going to family reunions. But after, I was getting older, I really started to enjoy going to family reunion. Like you say, you're supposed to go to family reunion to have fun. Like we was playing volleyball, we was playing, kickball, basketball, football, throwing frisbees,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But when getting back to, like, I don't think I've ever seen an adoption counselor.
There.
Not not that I can recall.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Um, but I don't think I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, they're definitely out there. And even the counselors that we went to when we, first got adopted, I don't think were adoption counselors. I just think that they were part of the human services building.
Hmm.
We're close to where we lived at, and that they provided services for families. So even the family, the adopted family, yes, is a part of families, but it's a different type of family, and so it has to be addressed in a different type of way.
Hmm.
And those are things that you just don't know then. You don't you like you said, you never been to an adoption therapist, and they are definitely out there. But again, these are things, this is the work. When people be like, oh, you got to put the work in, that that is actually the work, is
Hmm.
researching. And one it's not going to be one size fits all either, because even though you go to adoption therapist just like a regular therapist, I went through many therapists before I settled on the woman that I chose to go to, because all in all, we're looking for someone to feel comfortable with. We're
Hmm.
looking for someone we can trust. And because we're adopted and have that layer of our lives be different than others, then we for sure seek that out. And so it was cool to talk to the other people, but I just didn't feel, necessarily safe with them. I didn't feel, and when I say safe, I don't mean like they were going to harm me. I just felt like our conversation was very surface level, and they were just looking at me like, okay, tell me more, type of thing, and not really, diving into the issues that I came to them with.
Hmm.
Um, but going back to, the touching of the face and things of that nature, and your mom stepping in, because we are silenced, it doesn't teach us how to enforce boundaries. And that's a big thing with adoptees too, because you feel as though you have to be a people pleaser, because you are put in a situation where in essence you feel like a puppet. You feel like you're these new kids, and
New
now,
kids on the block.
yeah, new kids on the block. The family wants to uphold a certain image. Like for us, I believe it was, we have these two kids, we're going to dress them well, they're going to be involved in this, and they're going to play this, and they're going to, and we're just going to be the perfect modeled family.
Hmm.
And in adoption, there's nothing perfect about it. Like we always say, you start at loss, and starting at loss requires you to grieve. And if parents aren't tapped into that first fundamental step of actually connecting with your child, which is letting them know that they are adopted, including the birth mother into their adoption story. It doesn't have to be physical. You could have a picture of her, and the picture can, be on your child's dresser, or whatever the case may be, and it be a normal and frequent conversation. That is how you help a child grieve. But if
Hmm.
you're not going to address those things at all, how can you imagine that there is a bond from you starting, from day one? As if, again, I was adopted at 9. So it's like you're starting from day one as if I was just born yesterday. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't born last night. Like literally, I was not born last night. I came with some stuff. And so, adoptive parents need to realize that. And again, even with babies, they are going to go through things that are not going to be, that are not going to seem normal to you. They're not going to seem like things that your biological children, if you have biological children as well, they're not going to, they're not going to understand why you're silent, why you don't want to go outside, why, you're not talking. Like, they're not going to understand those things. And,
Mhm.
diving into those things is what's going to help your emotional bond and emotional intimacy with your children. You have to acknowledge the loss. That is the first, we're going to be talking about different phases that adoptees feel next week. And that's one of them, loss. That's the very first one, right there. The adoptees feel loss, whether it is a nervous system that is experiencing it, or if you're at an age where you are cognitively able to recognize that you are either losing a biological parent, you're going through many foster homes. Those losses add up, and emotionally they take a toll on the child. And if we're not going to grieve it, if we're not going to acknowledge it, if we're not going to touch where it hurts, then you can't really appreciate the good times. It's going to feel like I said, you're just going through the motions, and then you're going to get to a time and age and space where it's just like, why do I still feel like there is no bond there? And it's because of the work that you failed to do when you had the opportunity to do it at an age that would have made more sense, because then the child could grow into, those conversations and feel emotionally close to you, because they can trust that
Mhm.
that their feelings are safe with you, and that you're going to, handle them in a safe manner. So, not if it's a closed adoption, 0 picks. I always say God works in mysterious ways. The only picture that I had of my family was a family member that I met at McDonald's, or the caseworker took me to. And then years later, after I changed my legal adopted name to my biological adopted name, that same family member reached out, and that's how I
Wow.
connected to my biological family. But yes, in closed adoptions, they do not want you. I got pictures of myself when I was younger from family members after connecting with them. But before then, I have no baby. I still have no baby pictures of myself. I don't know what I looked like as a child. But again, God works in mysterious ways, because I have a daughter that looks exactly like me. She looks like, it's pretty much my twin. And so if I ever had a wonder, or ever had a thought about what I look like, I can just look at her. It's an amazing, just an amazing way that life, turns out for it turned out for me anyway. Um, but yeah, in the closed adoptions, they don't want you to have access to any of that, which is crazy. It's ridiculous. It really is, because you're really hiding, or you're really taking away the identity of the child, and now you want that identity to be in people that they don't know, who have to work so hard to actually bond with the child, when you can make it very easy. Closed adoption shouldn't mean you're closed off from every single part of you. I mean, pictures, seriously, pictures should at least be allowed. Come on, people.
Yeah, that's kind of so. The only baby picture of me I've ever seen it was a picture, and I'm actually going to see if I can get it when I go back to Detroit in June. It's a picture. I was in a newspaper,
Mm,
and it was an article that I believe the adoption agency had put in, I think, the Detroit News or the Detroit Free Press. And that's the only picture I seen of myself at that age. I never seen any pictures below that.
wow.
And all the other pictures that I had were taken, by my mom when I was growing up. And
Hmm.
so like I have like a whole photo album. She took pictures when I first went to go see Santa, and all these different moments, which really shapes how you can see yourself, coming up.
Mhm.
And so I hope that I'm able to get this picture, because it's the only picture that I ever seen of me, before I got adopted.
I was going to say it's before you got adopted, which means
hmm
you have a different name in the
hmm
newspaper with that picture.
I remember what the article said. It said my middle name, Little James. So my middle name is James, and
Okay.
so it said Little James something. I don't remember what the article said, but that's the one picture I do remember. So I'll try to see if I can find that. But yeah, I mean, pictures tell 1,000 words, and memories are those that come with the pictures that you can look back on and say, "Oh man, I remember." I remember exactly where this was. What I was doing. All that fun stuff.
Yep. Like I said, I didn't get pictures of myself when I was younger until I met biological family. And I actually do have one, now I'm remembering, I do have one picture of myself of when I was a baby. I had like a nightgown. I was in a crib, and I had like this little baby doll. It looked like a baby doll nightgown. It seems so old, like geez, but it was like a baby doll, like little nightgown. It was cute. And that's the one picture I have of myself. It's a little blurry. It's not like a clear picture.
Mhm.
But that's the one picture I have of myself. I have another picture of my brother and I when we had to be at least, this is probably when we were taken from our place with our great aunt, because in
Mhm.
the picture we both had on Bart Simpson t-shirts, and we're in the kitchen, and I could tell that I probably was like 3 and he was 2. We were very, very little.
Mhm.
But those are probably the earliest, pictures that I have of myself. And I have another picture hanging up. I'm probably about 5 or 6 in that picture. Another picture over here where I'm probably about 5 or 6 as well. But very few, and they came through, biological family that I met a lot later on in life that could only tell me stories about me. So yeah. All right, guys, we're going to transition on to this next story, a very sad one at that. The topic of the evening: the system failing Kanaiyah Ward. She was a resident of Maryland. Leon actually presented this story to me, and I'm like, okay, let me do a little bit of research. But we're going to get into the video, and then we're going to have more conversations around it, because in this video, it pretty much is a clear depiction of the system failing not only Kanaiyah Ward, but her biological family, who so desperately needed the help and begged for the help. And unfortunately, the result of not getting the help ended in the death of Kanaiyah.
Kanaiyah Ward was under the state's care, and they had been keeping her at a hotel with one-on-one support. The weekend she took her life, her support person was given a 53-hour-long shift where they're not allowed to sleep, and they're supposed to check on the foster child hourly. Now, Maryland's Department of Human Services has determined that negligence played a role in her death. However, the prosecutor is saying there's just not enough here to charge anyone criminally. Kanaiyah had been in the foster system for years, and not because she didn't have a good family, but because of her struggles and her family needing resources. And they had been begging CPS to take her out of a hotel and put her in a facility that would actually help her. So how it works is she's a ward of the state, but a contractor company called Fenwick Behavioral Services were the ones taking care of her, doing the one-on-one support. These shifts are supposed to change every 24 hours, and that person is required to stay awake, to check on them hourly, to make sure all medications are locked up, and to check on, the well-being of the child. Well, on the weekend of September 22nd, 2025, the person who was supposed to relieve the worker of their shift called out sick. And so instead of them finding any other alternative, they decide to keep the same employee working for 53 hours.
50
What?
3 hours.
What the heck? You can't even stay awake that long.
Okay.
So around 5:45 a.m., the worker came in to check on her. This person said that she didn't get out of the bed, but she was alive. And then at 10 a.m., so
5:45 and then 10 a.m., which means that worker probably took a little nap. Okay. Probably went, saw the Z's and was counting.
hours and hours later, they go to check on her again, and she is unresponsive. They found a bottle of Benadryl, basically, that she had taken, and she passed away. Since then, the state of Maryland has said that kids are no longer allowed to stay in hotels the way they had been. The reason she was in a hotel is because 5 different facilities said that they wouldn't take her. So the last choice here was to put her in a hotel, which, by the way, these people working in the hotels, they had no background checks, no licensing, nothing. So just some random people, in my opinion, allegedly, are staying in hotels with children. The children would stay in the bedroom and the worker would stay in the living room area. They had like suite hotels. So after she passed away, the Department of Human Services starts to investigate basically themselves, and then investigating the contractors that they hired. And they have determined that 3 different people played a role in her being able to pass away the way she did. But like I said, the prosecutor has reviewed all of this evidence and just said there's not enough there to formally file charges on a criminal level.
How though? Like how is there not enough evidence to file charges on a criminal level? This is crazy.
According to the attorney, her family fought so hard for her to get the help that she needed that they could not provide. They did everything they could from the position that they were in. They begged to get her out of this hotel, and that's where she stayed. In my opinion, there's a lot of people in this situation who should be charged criminally, and it sucks, but that is probably never going to happen. Because for some horrible, ridiculous reason, we just never can hold CPS accountable for anything. Even when their direct negligence causes an issue to happen, nothing's ever done. My heart goes out to this family, and I hope that somebody is held accountable.
So how does a child in the state in state custody end up in a situation and in a hotel? Now, I have never heard of children being sent to a hotel because there aren't resources or homes or environment that they can be placed in temporarily. I've never heard of that ever. So this is a first for me.
So, first of all, they got kids in homeless shelters too.
Oh, they do it in Texas. Lord Jesus. I wonder if they do it in Jersey. Ooh.
Like, what are we even talking about? First of all, you got a stranger basically babysitting a kid with no experience, in being a caretaker.
For
No
50 hours.
like no kind of
Can't do nothing for 53 hours.
no background check, no certifications. Like, they should have at least had like a camera or something in there. I mean, this is crazy. This is like basically she living on her own.
Right. A 15-year-old in a hotel room, mind you, the contractor checked on the child at 5 something in the morning. Now, yes, the child is still going to be in bed. I would still be in bed. Okay. But then you don't go back in there until 11 o'clock in the morning. My thing is, why is there there's no structure, right? The plan is just keep the child in a room, check on them every hour, and that's it. There is no, okay, you're struggling mentally, you're having behavioral problems, let's get you up, let's go to a program, let's get you involved, let's get you out of a isolated environment, because that also can cause depression, that also can cause anxiety. She's away from her biological family who has been begging for help. And that's another thing with foster care and adoption. It's like, instead of investing in the biological family and providing them with the resources, because we all know there's welfare, there's all types of things where folks get this stuff for free. Like, they get it for free. So instead of saying, here's a list of programs, or go to this address and, you know, go through this program for your daughter, you and your daughter, you take her out of her biological home and place her in a hotel. How does that even make any sense to a sane person?
And like, so are they basically giving up their rights basically at that point? Like,
No, she's in foster care. And I always say that the goal of foster care is for reunification to happen. Meaning the goal is that if the parents are unable to care for the child, and in this case, they were unable to provide her the mental resources that she needed, if they're unable to do that, then the child would then become a ward of the state, and the state would place the child in temporary care so that the child could get what they need, or the parents can get what they need for both to be reunited again. In this situation, there may be things that we just don't know. It may be some truths that are left out of the situation, but for them to beg, and that's another thing. When you become a ward of the state, nobody can tell those people what to do with you. They can't say, get my child out of the hotel room, because that's really not your child anymore. They are a ward of the state. And so the state can do what they see fit with this child. And again, we saw last week a social worker exposing CPS and how they can twist and turn the narrative so that the child stays in custody of the state, and then they are in multiple foster homes before they are adopted. We know that states get specific funding for children who are rehomed, or children who are placed in these foster care homes. And so it's a financial gain for the state for the child to be taken away from their biological family and placed in a home with strangers. They benefit financially off of that. And so even with her parents begging them to get help, get resources, take her out of the hotel, that is not something that they're willing to do, because if they do that, then their financial gain won't be as large as it would be if she would just stay in their care.
man, this is so messed up. Like, she basically, so how does she get fed?
I guess the worker who was there is supposed to make sure she gets fed and takes her medicine. But the worker that was there obviously didn't see the bottle of Benadryl that she had, or the bottle of Benadryl. And it's crazy that it's Benadryl, because we all know what Benadryl do to you. Okay. They did not secure it in a place where the child couldn't access it.
Yeah, and then I read, when I was researching this, they were putting kids in homeless shelters. As of like yesterday, I think the news had reported that 2 kids were still in homeless shelters. What are you gonna do in a homeless shelter? Like,
Right. What
I'm confused.
how dangerous homeless shelters are. There's a guy on Instagram. his name is like Romeo something.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe he's naturally based out of New York, but he went through homelessness when he was younger. And so this is his way of giving back. And he'll go
Mm-hmm.
the streets of New York and feeding people and clothing them and just loving on them. I think what he does is so awesome. However, I commented one day, and he interviews these people and he talks to these people, and I asked the question on there, and it got thousands of likes and thousands of comments. But I'm like, why don't people ever want to go to a homeless shelter? Like, why would people rather sleep out on the street? And I actually did a project on this in college in my civic engagement class on homelessness. And I knew the answer to the question, but I wanted the people of Instagram and those who follow him and those who may have been going through the experience to give their real life, perspective on it.
Mm-hmm.
And the main consensus of the answers that were on the post were that homeless shelters are not safe. Homeless shelters are not safe for people. And it's crazy that is the sentiment, and that though that's the truth about homeless shelters. But that's why a lot of women don't take their children to homeless shelters, because people are ready to rob you, hurt you, steal your belongings. It's not the cleanest environment. They don't have the resources needed to really keep the homeless shelter up, and there may be mold and things around that are getting people sick. It's just not the safest place for people who do not have houses to live in. But then to take children and put them in these homeless shelters, God knows what is happening to children in these homeless shelters. Children, not children with adults, not mother and children, but children by themselves, putting them in a homeless shelter to survive.
Mm-hmm. And you might as well be sleeping outside.
But that's why many of them do.
Like,
People will sleep in a tent before they go to a homeless shelter and be content sleeping in that tent, and would rather do that than go to a homeless shelter.
and so basically from this event, um, the state of Maryland passed a law. It's named after her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be some reform, like up to $800 million, allegedly.
Thank God. And it's sad that it took a child to die.
Yeah.
And it's also sad that no one is being held accountable for this. It's great that the law is being passed, but at the end of the day, who is being accountable for the death of Kanaiyah? No one.
Should be the person who put her there.
Yeah, it should be the person who put her there, the person who was supposed to be watching after her. There should be some consequence there. But the thing is, why there's no consequence? Because there's no training. These people aren't trained. These people aren't licensed. Therefore, there is no accountability. It's just like a house. If you ain't on a deed, you really not on a hook. You're not on a hook for this house. And so these people aren't on the hook for these children.
Mm-hmm.
That is why there is no accountability. That is why there is no consequence. That is why there is no action being taken towards these, contractors, because they were never supposed to be there in the first place. So now they're going to act like everybody Casper the ghost, like it didn't happen. Yeah, a young lady lost her life, and a family, a biological family, has to mourn the death of their daughter because child protective services did not want to offer the proper resources in order for her to continue to live with her biological family.
And then, like you said, it's good they passed the law, but like, how long it's going to take to get those things in place?
Yes, legislative.
It's actually at the governor's desk. So all he has to do is sign it. But what I'm saying is, just because they pass a law, like they have to come up with a structure that's actually going to be that's going to help and not, do any more harm to anyone else. Um, it's like restricting housing of children in unlicensed settings such as hotels and offices. It's a whole. I still have it up. It's expanding background checks for adults who are living with guardians, establishing child welfare to handle complaints and review child welfare practices. So actually, the guy that actually was pushing for this, he was actually adopted. He's a delegate of the state of Maryland. He was the one that was for the last year has been pushing for this. Um, and it got on the docket in January, and he basically was saying this cannot be ignored, any longer. Like, but it takes people who have experienced it or understand the world where we come from to actually provoke change, and he is in the right place. He's a delegate of Maryland, and he can, you know, get these bills written and passed. So, now, they gotta go on to the next thing, So I'm actually very happy that this happened, you
Yes.
know, because you don't want whatever she had, and I really wanted to understand like what her issue was, why they couldn't take care of her, what was she exhibiting, or like what made them almost sound like the lady that wrote in on the Facebook group, like why did they want to place her, into the ward of the state? Like what I wonder what drove them to make that decision.
The parents,
Yeah.
again, having children, whether they're biological or adoptive, is sometimes a heavy load that people
Hmm.
cannot. When I had my daughter, I was in my 20s. I was 23,
Hmm.
23. So I wasn't, a teenager. But I always had the mindset of if this is my child, this is my responsibility. Like I always just had that mindset, right? So
Hmm.
no matter what comes my way, or no matter what comes out of the situation, or no matter how my daughter is, or whatever the case may be, it's my responsibility, and I just have to. And maybe because of the way that I was raised in the adoption and my adopted family, of moving forward and just doing what I have to do and obeying my parents and just, things like that. Maybe that prepared me of taking on the responsibility, because I was taught to be very responsible.
But that's part of it, right? Like when we look back, and I say this all the time, hindsight is 2020. You
Mhm,
don't realize what's going to happen until you in that space. Um, I'm the same way. Like my dad, he worked at GM, and my mom, she was a nurse.
mhm,
But my mom stopped working when I was adopted,
mm,
so she could take care of me and my brother. So um, it was just my dad working, and he knew he had to do what he had to do. He was working a lot of overtime, but he still found time to spend with us, right? Like he didn't neglect that
mm.
piece of it. And my mom, I talk about her a lot, and she nurtured us to where we are today. You know, well, and it's really when you look back at all of the things your mother and father said no to,
Mhm.
You didn't know that they were saving you from whatever might have or could have happened or did happen.
Right.
So it's very easy to be upset when they tell you no when you're younger, because all you want to do is go. Like, you're like, well, why can't I go?
Mhm.
Everybody else is going.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it shaped you to who you are, and that's why you have that attitude towards your daughter, because you are responsible for her well-being and making her the best person that she can be. And that's what it's really about, right? Like, giving her that emotional everything that you can give her, um, and making sure she understands, how life is and how it works.
Yeah. And just being an adoptee, period, right? Like,
Hmm.
I have an experience that she doesn't have to have, thank God, right?
Hmm.
There was nothing wrong with me. I can fully take care of my child. Um, but a lot of mothers don't necessarily feel that way. There's so many crash outs right now on social media, and I mean, it is not easy to live in the economy that we're living in, on top of being a mother. And so a lot of mothers feel the pressure of mothering, and it's a lot for them, and for some it's too many or too much. And so they go to the extent of placing their children in foster care, especially if a child, in this case where the child has mental health issues, right?
Hmm.
It's too much for the parents. And so, is it right? Is it wrong? I always say get the help that you need. However, if you're begging and if you're asking for help, let's just say that they just couldn't afford the help, you
Hmm.
know, if this is something that a parent is asking for in order to help their child, why is the resolve to that to take the child and put them in a hotel? you know um we don't know the situation of the adoptive. They said that she come from great parents, so I'm assuming that there's a mother and a father there. um not and this happens a lot with children who are adopted. Their biological parents are not given the resources needed in order for them to parent the child in a holistic way. They can provide, a roof. They can probably provide clothes and things of that nature. But when it comes to mental and emotional health, which is
Hmm.
a huge thing in our society, especially with the things that they put in food, with technology, TV, all those added things does not help the circumstances of the child. Um, and so, with that being said, the resources that a child should get, they don't get, and they're put in a situation of foster care where the goal of foster care is to be reunified with your parents. However, how can the reunification ever take place if nobody get the resources? So it's
It's
all,
a never-ending cycle.
yes, it's like y'all lying. Somebody lying.
Somebody lying.
Somebody lying. Because if that's the case, why aren't there scheduled visits? Why isn't there a structured environment for this child to get better?
Hmm.
Again, I don't see how, and I'm glad that this delegate of Maryland was able to invoke change. And it takes someone who's been through it, who can be empathetic towards the situation, not just sympathetic, but empathetic towards this situation, to
Hmm.
say this should not be happening. This should not be happening.
Yeah, and this proves, whatever you feel about politics, right? This proves that it works. Like if you feel so strongly about something, in which this is an important topic. This is not like, Pat, give me more money to go fight some war, right? It's actually give me money to protect these children from this happening again, right?
Right.
Make change where it's needed. Like, cause like, why are we having adults watch people who don't even have training on how to watch them? They're basically glorified babysitters.
Yep.
Um, so I just thought that this was an interesting story. The guy, he was in foster care, so he understood, you know, what it was like, and he wanted to push for this change, and he's been fighting ever since she had passed away.
And I believe that's the only reason, or not the only reason, but a huge part of the reason
Mm-hmm.
why this law is now being passed is only because he is an advocate for adoptees.
Mm-hmm.
He's in a position to make change, right? He's in a position to say this has to stop and we need to do things a different way. And I don't think that that happens enough in the adoption space for people
Mm-hmm.
to say that this has been happening long enough a certain way. It's not working. Things are not getting better, and we need to do it a different way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I read this and I started watching more videos, I was like, oh, he was adopted too. That makes even more sense. Like, and he's a delegate, so he has those connections where he can say, "Look, this can't happen anymore," because they're also looking at bottom line too, right? Like, so it all goes back to money.
Yep.
If they can't, if they can't place people, they can't make money. So, um, I'll try to find more stories around, where I live. I also did want to bring up the Black Adoptee meetup.
Okay. The one in Philly?
Yeah,
Mhm.
didn't realize it cost so much for one.
Yeah, it is. What is it like? Is it like 350 or
Yeah, it's like three something.
yeah?
I actually might be able to go because I'll be, that's a few months after I come back from Detroit, so I should be able to go. I seen the I seen the link earlier today.
Mhm.
I clicked on it. I said, "Whoa,
But they have to pay for the space that we're gonna be in.
yeah,
I
yeah,
believe we're gonna do like food and stuff like that. So
yeah."
that's oh
So for those that don't know what we're talking about, so there is a page on Instagram. It's called Black Adoptee Meetup. So basically, it's a space for adoptees to meet up, and basically build a community with adoptees if you don't already have people in your life that's adopted. Actually, I think Precious is the first person I met that was adopted, to be honest.
wow. I still think that that's like really. I'm trying to find the.
It's on YouTube also.
I use Instagram on my phone so much that I really have to figure out how to use it. Ooh, I don't even know how to search on here.
Stop.
I'm so serious. I don't even know how to where's the search bar like on the phone or how to
On YouTube?
search. Oh Jesus, right there.
You on
Um
your phone? You on your phone or you on your computer?
no, I'm on my computer, but I use Instagram on my phone so much that I have to learn how to use it in the computer format. Is there a page, the Adoptee Meetup, or
It should be the Black Adoptee Meetup, or it should be.
I do want to share it. And I know I saved it, but I saved so many videos that it would take me forever to try to find it, because I save a lot of videos for content. So I know it's on here somewhere. But I'm not seeing it. But it's definitely happening. I believe it's going down in November.
October.
October in Philadelphia. Maybe it's not on this actual page though, but I thought it was.
Or it might be on that lady's page, Adoption Journey. She's got the braids. I was trying to look for it too.
Let's see. I don't know. What I will do is probably post it to the wall once I come across it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll post it on the wall of my YouTube, of the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Because I'm not seeing it. So what we can do is just, definitely promote it until. I'm telling you, child. I'm like, wait, what am I looking at?
I think the search is on like the left-hand side.
It is.
On
I
the
finally found it, but now
Yeah.
I'm actually finding the actual person's page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, IG should just be made for the phone, because I'm like, woo.
Yeah.
Even when I go to send messages on there, like I'll send you the link on IG, but I usually do that on the computer because I can copy and paste the link from
Mm-hmm.
to send it to you. But anything past that, I'm just gonna search.
Let me see if I could find it in the shorts. I seen it earlier.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that, because we're able to speak with other adoptees in a space and at an age that we're able to accept our stories, and we're able to actually speak about our stories in a way that is that helps others and heals others. Like
Somebody put it in the chat.
The Adoption Journey podcast. I went there, but I didn't see it. Let me try it one more time. And then it's like, do I space the words out on here? Like, what is happening? This meetup is going to be a opportunity for us to hear others' stories and connect with others in a way where, we can also be involved in the movement. This is how you make connections. I'm in sales, and so we'll have conventions and different things where you meet up with your customer base, and
Mm-hmm.
you're able to connect face to face.
You find it,
build a relationship, to build different relationships. So I'm still not seeing it. I feel like I would have to
We'll find it.
kind of like through her whole page, in which I love her content. The Adoption Journey podcast. I believe we viewed one or two of her videos, and probably last month or 2 months ago when we came back to. I think I found it. Oh no, that's the Orlando one. Where's the Philly one? That was the Orlando one. Somebody asked me if I was going to be at the Orlando one. I'm like, no, I'm going to be at the Philly one. So I found the Orlando one, but I didn't find the Philly one. And the Philly one is happening.
Let me see if I can search for it.
Like, am I scrolling too fast?
Oh, here it is.
You got it?
Yeah. So
You should be able to share your screens as well on your side. If not, you can send it to me and I can share it. Oh, .org. Okay, so it's actually on a website and not necessarily on her Instagram page. Okay.
I think she runs it, and maybe she just created the site or something. I don't know. But I put it in the chat. Maybe if you could share your screen.
Hold on. Let's see. What was it? The Adoptee. Can you say it out loud? The Adoptee Journey podcast.
So the URL is blackadopteesmeetup.org.
Oh, snap. I had it all wrong. Black Adoptees
Meetup.org.
.org. Okay. All right. Hold on now. Hold on.
Hey, what's going on, Mo?
Hey, Mo. Let me see here. Share screen. What? Google Chrome would like to record this computer screen. Deny. All right. All right. So it's now open 2026 registration. The adoptees.
I see your TikTok or
Lord, what? What you see?
the video.
Oh, let me, because I'm still, it's still, let me redo that.
Might not be sharing to the right screen.
Yeah, I think I still had the video up on stage. Share screen. Share. All right, do you see it now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so let me actually get back to, there we go. All right, so it says now open to 2026 registration, now open Black Adoptees Meetup. And it's another thing, it's our people. Black Adoptees Meetup, where community meets connection. At Black Adoptees Meetup, we foster a sense of belonging, trust, and shared purpose through virtual events and one annual in-person event in the metropolitan city. It will be in Philly, October 2nd through the 4th. It looks like this is a picture from a previous meetup. And, it's not a huge amount of people, but just enough. It looks like this was probably maybe a dinner, all black dinner. It looks like they have merch on the website, but the registration, if you're interested, $260. It wasn't as much as I thought it was.
By the time you get there, it's gonna be $3 something.
Well, we got it.
I might drive or take the train.
Invest in our community. Come together for a weekend of connection, support, and fun. Whether you're just starting your adoption journey or have been on it for years, this meetup is for you. Every registration includes a goodie bag with a T-shirt and other surprises. So, of course, that those things cost. So on Fridays, a meet and greet from 7 p.m. to 8:30. There's a fireside chat from 8:45 to 10:30. The location in Philadelphia is to be announced. Dinner is included in the registration. Again, that's where where part of the monies is going. Saturday morning is a Black music and movies walking tour at 11 a.m. That should be fun. It's also included in the registration. Saturday evening is a Black excellence dinner from 7 to 10 at Bayou Lounge. Dinner included in registration. Look, we getting some stuff for our money here now. All right. Sunday morning, Love Park. I love Love Park. 11 a.m. recap and final group picture. Closing. There's also lunch at the Shops at Liberty Place. If you've never been to the Shops at Liberty Place, it's actually a great place.
I've never been to Philly.
Ever?
Don't say it like that.
You like one stay over. The meetup shirt is included. So, when you register, you do have to you do have to give your size. But child, I'm looking here, 100% refund by April 30th. April 30th is in like 15 days. 50% by May 31st. No refund after June 1st. So definitely, if you are interested, if you're in the area, adopted, you are an adoptee, definitely join us. We'll be there. We will be there. Okay. But yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that. Just it's an event, it's something different, you know. Why not?
Why not? Plus, I've never been to Philly.
That's crazy.
Stop it.
Never been to Philly. Yeah, I mean, not to say that I have to go to Philly for everything, but if I want some type of entertainment, most times I would have to go over the bridge. And I'm probably like 35 minutes, 40 minutes maybe away from Philly. Early. We say right over the bridge. That's how we geographically place it, right over the bridge, because it is right over the bridge for us. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll continue to as a matter of fact, I'm gonna bookmark this.
We need to see if we can get a few of those folks on here and have some discussions. I reached out to a few people. They probably thought I was crazy. They didn't respond.
Well, the person who I don't know if she's heading it up, but the Adoption Journey podcast, she has been in our audience before. I used one of her, yes, I've used one of her I used one of her videos, one of our very first live coming back on YouTube, and she was in the chat. So maybe I'll reach out to her to see. And she even said that she, wouldn't mind being on a platform. So that'll be my homework this week, to reach out to her. So maybe she can actually help us discuss the different phases that adoptees feel on next week's show. So I'll definitely, reach out to her tomorrow and see how she feels about being on the show on Tuesday evening.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Because it looks like she's one of the I don't know if she's like a founder of this meetup. She's just in charge of the one in Philly. I don't know. Maybe we can even ask her more questions for those who do have more questions about the meetup. She can fill us all in.
Chelsea, you laughing at me?
Because you ain't never been to Philly. And you so close. What was the last thing I did in Philly? What did I just do? I just did something in Philly. What did I just do in Philly? I went to a Sixers game not too long ago. We lost, unfortunately. But I just was in Philly for something.
You a Phillies fan? Sixers fan?
It's funny. I play basketball, but I don't really watch basketball like that on TV. I'd rather watch football. I've been to
the same.
But yeah, I really don't watch basketball.
Well, my Pistons in the playoffs, so I'm gonna be watching basketball.
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember when I used to play Madden. Was it Madden? Did they have the Madden basketball back in the day on PlayStation? I used to play that with my brother. I wasn't a huge gamer, right? So he used to have to beg me to play with him. I like the card games and like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that.
Oh, you bringing up some old school games.
But in Tomb Raider, I love Tomb Raider. There was one level I could not get past in Tomb Raider. But when it came to basketball, I always used to pick the Pistons for my team. Was it Joe Dumars? He?
Joe D.
I always used to. I don't know why. You would have thought I was just a Piston fan for life, but I always used to just pick them when I played.
You come be a fan. It's all right.
I don't know nothing about no Pistons. But yeah, I would rather now, I'll go watch it. I enjoy live sports. I'll go to a football game or a basketball game, but I just won't sit down. I'll watch football on TV for sure. I'm one of those people, it's football season, don't bother me. But basketball, it's I had one experience at a Sixers game. I went by myself. I was just I want to go out, man. Never again. Never again. That whole night was just a night to remember. One I won't forget. Um, but yes, Tomb Raider, the creepy butler.
Hmm.
Oh my goodness. Those were the games that I like to play. I wasn't necessarily a huge the football, my goodness. I all the X's and O's and triangles. I didn't know what I was just pressing buttons. I was just pressing buttons and I didn't know what the heck I was doing on them games.
And you literally use all the buttons on the football too, because I got it for Xbox.
I used all the buttons already. I didn't know
And she
how
was like,
I was just like, like I didn't know what I was doing. And it's crazy how people get paid to play games
"Oh yeah,
all day, every day. More power to them. Look, that just wasn't the gift that God gave me, but more power
I'm a casual, so like I ain't trying to be on nobody online tournament or nothing like that. Like
Mhm.
whenever I get in the mood, I just fire up my Xbox and I go play for a couple hours.
I've never been a game, and what I guess I can say that I grew out of it because when I was in Jersey City and I was in foster care, actually my mornings consisted of we had like this front porch, and the front porch I had a Nintendo, and I would play. I would have like Count Dracula
Hmm.
games on there, Ninja Turtle. I remember the Ninja Turtle games I used to have. So maybe I just grew out of it. But my mornings actually started like that when I was a kid. I never really was a cartoon, you know how kids watch cartoons in the morning, grab some cereal and just be in front of the
That
TV.
was me. That was
That
me.
that was never, something that I did, but I did used to, I was outside. I told you. I was outside playing the real games, okay? Hide and seek, catching fireflies in jars for real. That I was one of those kids where it was just like go outside, enjoy the air, get dirty like a kid should get dirty, learn how to ride a bike, ride your rollerblade.
Hmm.
You know, I came from that time and I would not give it I wouldn't trade it for the world. Like
Me either.
I wouldn't trade it for the world.
We tried so many things: skateboarding, like you said, rollerblading, um, riding big wheels, um,
Mhm.
jumping ramps.
Yeah, like that was fun, and it
Those
was
were
just
the days.
simple fun. It was simple, safe fun, you know.
Hmm.
Those were also the days where your community looked out for you. So if I was doing something and a neighbor down the street saw me doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing, they dragged my behind back up the street to my foster mom and would say, yeah, get her.
What you think you're doing?
Exactly. Nowadays, people don't care about you. They let you just suffer. They want to record you, put you on the internet, child.
Hmm.
All right, guys. Well, we have come to this part of the program where it is time to say goodbye. No, let me stop. But we are getting out of here. But tonight has been a good live. I wanted to, Leon, thank you for bringing the Kanaiyah Ward situation to light because I didn't know anything about it. I hadn't heard anything about it, and so once I researched it and saw videos of it, it definitely allowed me to see a little bit deeper in how other states are handling things. And thank God that this law has been passed so that they can handle things in a different manner. But again, it took for an adoptee to be able to say, something's not right. Something needs
Hmm.
to change. And unless you're a part, FUBU for us by us, unless you are a part of the community in the boardrooms, you really can't really invoke change unless you have walked the walk and talked the talk. And thank God for the delegate in Maryland who is making some moves and allowing things to change on the behalf of innocent children who have no
Hmm.
say, who voices are silenced, who feel like they have no one to turn to. I thank God for him. Adopted Connor content is always appreciated because he sheds light on things that people are uncomfortable bringing to light, and really allowing the truth to be told. And the truth in adoption hurts, and that's why we talked about it before. We don't see a lot of Black adoptee parents come to the forefront to talk about their experience, because trauma has told them that what happens is in this house stays in this house. However, life tells us that what happens in that house gets older and leaves that house and experiences life on their own. And so home should be the first place they're able to have a voice and feel comfortable having a voice and trust that their voice and their feelings are heard, seen, and validated. And so both of those videos were great videos to share tonight, just to give you a little bit more insight on what's going on around the world and in the world that you live in, that you just may not know is happening. And it allows you to be sympathetic. You can't be empathetic because maybe you're not adopted and maybe you have not lived this life or are not on this journey, but you can be sympathetic to those who are. And you can lend a listening ear or a supportive shoulder to those who feel as though they don't know where to turn or they don't know who to talk to. Definitely direct them over here. We would love for anyone who is in this community to continue to dwell and grow and flourish in a community where you're able to voice, have a voice and find language for those feelings that you feel that you can't quite put into words. We do that over here. So it's been a great live. I appreciate you guys. Was I still sharing that page that whole time? Could y'all still see it or no?
I don't see it on my end. No.
Okay. I appreciate you guys. Definitely, before we get out of here, if it is in your heart to do so, definitely donate to the platform. I would greatly.
What happened? Did you just end?
Stand up music is this for you to dance to. The man with the plan and the man that man you. Leave the smack and the crack, throw the whack, throw the ball and the knock with a smile like that. Leave the knife and the gun.
But again, guys, this is the Adoptee Foster, where we say the uncomfortable things out loud. Definitely like, share, subscribe, hit that bell notification so you know when we go live. Join us tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern. We are going to be talking about the Ashley Janae. Her name is Ashley Janae, the woman who went missing. Excuse me, I'm mixing up all my words. Ashley Janae, she went to Tanzania and ended up dead. So we're gonna be covering that story tomorrow because that's a story that is
still unfolding,
invoking a lot of questions. Her family is looking for answers. And it is all over the internet. It is a story. She's actually from South Jersey. She's from, I believe, Gloucester. There's so many places. Everybody's like, oh, she's from Miami. She's from Philly. No, she's from South Jersey. She was born in South Jersey. She went to school in South Jersey. She then moved to Miami to start her modeling career and things of that nature. But we'll go over all of that tomorrow, guys. Thank you again for joining us this evening. Hope to see you all tomorrow. But if not, we will definitely see you next Tuesday right here on the Adoptee. You guys have a great evening.